The era of PlayStation Store slop is finally ending. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. Still working on this camera angle, but I like standing up. I decided I did a couple sitting down and I just forget what I'm saying when I'm sitting down. I can't move my arms and my body. So I'm standing up for the videos this week. In addition to that first topic, we're going to talk about how there's a new PS5 bundle coming that includes last year's Game of the Year, and we're going to go over everything that was announced in the state of play. But yeah, let's jump into this first topic here, which is all about the end of slop on the PlayStation Store. So if you've been buying games on the PlayStation Store for a while, and I know you have because the vast majority of people buy all their games digitally, you've probably noticed this increasing problem over time where when you search for a game like God of War Ragnarok, for example, you'll get a bunch of random crapware games like War of Ragnarok, God of Destiny. And when you search any of those terms, like you're looking for Destiny 2, War of Ragnarok, God of Destiny comes up, or you search for Ragnarok, that game comes up, or you search for God of War, that game comes up. They make these weird little games that aren't even games. They're like AI asset flips or just clones of other games made in Unity that they throw together in a couple of weeks. Or they're these games that, you play for 30 minutes and then you get the platinum trophy. Stuff like that has been infecting the PlayStation Store for a long time. And it really started a long time ago with mobile games. I mean, you'd see stuff like this all the time on the App Store on iPhones, and then on Android phones, it's still a problem. Then when the Switch came out and Nintendo had their eShop, the slop on that was absolutely insane. After like the first year or so of the Switch being out, it was like Nintendo had no rules on what you could put on the store. And then it seems like Sony didn't either. And these developers who are pushing this stuff out into the ecosystem are just taking advantage of these weird lapses in rules. Lately though, a lot of the storefront owners are cracking down on this stuff. I just talked about it on Deck Ready, but Valve, they just implemented a rule where if you have a game that shows in-game advertising, so if it's a flip of a mobile game, like, when you're playing a free-to-play mobile game and you run out of gas in a racing game or something, and it's like you want to recharge that, you can pay money or you can watch an ad. Any game that has ads enabled like that is not allowed on Steam anymore. And it's funny because Ubisoft, of all publishers, was working on getting a system like that implemented in their games. So if they do that, their games are not going to be available on Steam, which is good. And then to crack down on abandoned early access titles, because that was a scam a lot of developers were running. They'd put something together that was like 60% done. They'd launch it into early access. They'd get a lot of sales based on the initial gameplay. They'd do a couple of updates just to make it look like they were still updating the game. And then they take the money and run and disappear. So now when you go to Steam and you look at an early access game, you'll see a little box that tells you after 12 months how long it's been since that developer released an update for the game. And I've been hoping that Sony, I actually said this in my video on Deck Ready, but I was like, I hope Sony implements a similar strategy here, because while Steam is big, it's the biggest PC store, the gaming storefront wars as a whole are dominated by Sony because most people have PlayStation consoles. So if Valve's doing it, I kind of expect Sony to do the same thing, and it looks like they finally are. The main publisher culprit on the PlayStation Store lately has been Random Spin. They've been making asset flip games that are just clones of other stuff for years now. They've been making body cam shooter games. They've been making stuff like Backrooms Escape. They've been making random simulator games that don't really work. Like anything like Power Wash Simulator. That's a legit game made by Future Lab. People really like it. Square Enix published it. If they can make their own budget ripoff, not even functional version of that and throw it up on the PlayStation Store, that's what they're going to do. They're going to make that in a weekend and throw it up. All of those games are disappearing. Sony is going through the PlayStation Store with a fine-tooth comb, and they're taking all of this stuff down so that it's not only not available for purchase, because I'm sure they were getting a ton of refund requests, which is probably the only reason they've even done this in the first place, but it also is getting rid of the clog on the search terms on the PlayStation Store, and I think that's good overall. The one downside here, I guess, is that they could go back to how stringent they were about this stuff in the PS3 and PS4 era, at least the early PS4 era, where like you had to go through a ton of hoops to get your game on the PlayStation Store. And then in the later half of the PS4 era and introducing into the PS5 era, they made it a lot more lax. So like a lot of people could get their games on the store, these single person teams. They made it easy for these people to talk to Sony, get their game on the PlayStation Store and get the word out there. Because back in the day when indie games were kind of taken off, you would see so many examples of games that were made by small development teams that were released on PC. And then people would be like, why isn't this also on console? And they'd be like, we literally don't know how to talk to Sony. So Sony did a good job making it so that they could not only talk to them, but get their games on the store in the first place. And I think that's what they got to protect, right? Like, get rid of all this shovelware crap that's clogging up searches and everything like that and giving people bad games that don't even work right, but also keep it easy for real developers to actually get their games on the store. I don't know if they need to hire someone to kind of go through everything that's submitted with a fine-tooth comb and just say, if this is legit, it can stay. If it's fucked, it can go, or something like that. Or if they can develop some AI large language model to do it, whatever they got to do to make sure that small indie teams can still get their games on the PlayStation Store, but also at the same time, get rid of these crappy garbage games. I feel like that's exactly what they got to do. When it comes to the PlayStation Store, the future is a little weird because, you know, all these other companies like Microsoft and Epic Games, they want to get their storefronts on iOS and Android. So like if there's a game like Fall Guys or I don't know, Pentiment or something like that, they could make iPhone versions of those games and have them available through that store. You would give the money to Microsoft or, you know, Epic Games in that case, or Fortnite is another great example of a game that they'd want to get on the iOS store without putting it on the App Store. And I feel like Sony obviously is going to want to do the same thing. They have a huge classics library of PSP games, Vita games, PS2 games, PS1 games, PSP games that they could just throw up on the store, and then you could buy them through that. They'd sync with your PlayStation Network account. You'd get trophies, your saves would transfer and everything like that. I also think it'd be cool if Sony made their own at least launcher for PC so that when you play PC Sony games, they have better integration than just trophies and friend list syncing. If they make it so you can transfer your saves back and forth from PC, they're going to go from getting $70 from me every time they release a game to $140 immediately, because being able to transfer my saves from my Steam Deck to my main gaming PC to my PlayStation 5s whenever I want, that's the future I've been dying for ever since I was in college and Microsoft announced that they were going to start putting all their Xbox games on PC from that point forward. I was like, great, that's cool. If I ever want to play a Microsoft game or own an Xbox, I'll be able to take advantage of that. But like, I don't really. I'm thinking of selling my Series X because I haven't used it in over a year, except for when I played the Gears trilogy on it, and that's allegedly coming to PlayStation. So I have no reason to own an Xbox, and that's one area where Sony should copy Microsoft in that regard. Like, if they are going to continue releasing games on PC and other platforms, bare minimum, the main feature I think they should implement is cross saves. Anyway, that brings me to the second news story here, which is we've got a new PlayStation 5 bundle coming up, and it includes the game of the year from 2024, which of course was Astro Bot. It's allegedly coming on March 14th, and the cool thing is it's going to be the disc edition model and the disc drive-less edition model. So like, no matter what PS5 you want to buy, there's going to be an Astro Bot pack-in bundle included. I hope they kind of retool their whole strategy when it comes to these bundles, because even if you get the disc drive model, you still get a digital code for these games. Like, even if they put a steelbook or something in the box just to make you feel like you can put the game on your shelf, even if it's digital, and know that you own it, I think that would be a good step in the right direction. Because if you're including a disc drive with the console, I don't feel like it's too much to ask for Sony to say, hey, factory who packs up all the PS5s, if you're doing a disc drive model, just take a physical copy of Astro Bot and throw it in the box. If you're doing a digital model, just throw a code in the box. It's just bizarre that they're selling a disc drive console and the pack-in game that comes with it is not even a physical copy. Like, I understand that it's not the biggest deal in the world, but like, that little extra bit of quality feeling that you get when you open the box, you pull out your PS5, you pull out your DualSense controller, and then you pull out a game in a case, like, that's just a cool feeling. And it would bring me back to when I got my first Wii. Like, I thought the Wii was awesome because when you open the box, you not only had the Wii in there, but you also had Wii Sports on a disc. Now, obviously, if it was now and the Switch 2 is coming out and they were going to do a Wii Sports like title for that, I guarantee it would just be preloaded onto the console. But like, that was a cool part of growing up, getting a new console and having a game disc in the box. Even Xbox did it back in the day. When my brother got his black Xbox 360 Elite, it came with Lego Indiana Jones on a disc, and I just thought that was so damn cool. So yeah, when they release this bundle, it's obviously going to be a digital code for Astro Bot, but like, it would be cool if we could get some sort of physical version of the game in these bundles going forward, because as we've seen, physical games are a necessity more now than ever. When people lose access to the PlayStation Network, that's when they really realize how much the rubber is hitting the road in terms of access to your games. It's crazy that without access to the PlayStation Network, unless you go through through all these hoops to make sure not only your PS5 is your home primary console or whatever, which is tough for me because I have 3 PS5 set up, or you've checked your licenses recently, which you have to do for every individual game that you want to play on the PlayStation 5. You're just not going to have access to your game. So yeah, physical games are important. I understand that it saves Sony a little bit of money to just throw in the digital code versus throwing in a whole disc, but like, go the extra mile. We're giving you up to $700 for these consoles. You could at least say thank you with some physical copies of your games. All right, that brings me to the end of the video. We got to talk about the state of play, and I'm telling you guys up front, I don't want to sound like a hater. I don't want to be negative on these things. They just never have anything that makes me go, holy shit, that's awesome. That's why I'm a PlayStation gamer, and they've continued that trend. There was one great state of play ever, in my opinion, and it's the one where they announced Street Fighter 6 and Resident Evil 4 Remake. That's the standout one out of all of them. This one, once again though, big positive. They did end it with the PlayStation Studios game. It looks solid. It's called Saros. It's from Housemarque. It's a spiritual successor to Returnal. I think that's great. Out of all the PS5 exclusive games, like the ones that aren't cross-generation, Returnal's the best one by a mile. Gameplay wise, it is excellent. Unfortunately, it's missing in the same way as Returnal for me, which is the story and the main character. I don't really care at all about what I saw, but I'll play it for the gameplay, just like I did with Returnal. I like that they've ended the last 2 state of plays with a first-party PlayStation Studios game. Ghost of Yotei was first. At the Game Awards, we got Intergalactic, and now we've got Saros. So that's some stuff to fill out the roadmap. They put a 2026 release date on it. I would expect, because it's a spiritual successor to Returnal, that it will hit that release date. So solid. My favorite game of the entire thing got the least fanfare, which was Days Gone Remastered. This is a $10 upgrade if you own the game on PS4. I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's getting a little bit of a graphics polish up. It didn't really look that much better to my eye, but mainly because that game already looked really good, and the add-on that you get with it is a horde mode. So like, there's hordes in the story mode, but there's like a separate mode that's like a horde arcade mode. That's awesome. I'll buy that for $10 immediately on PS5 and PC. I just hope the remaster runs as well on Steam Deck as the original version does, because it's one of the best games on Steam Deck, especially from Sony, but bar none, like one of the best open world games on the Steam Deck. I think this is going to look really good on PS5 Pro. And, you know, knowing that their live service game just got canceled at Bend, could they be working on Days Gone 2? I mean, out of all the recent first party games, especially new IP wise, Days Gone stands out as one of my favorites, and it still pisses me off that Sony abandoned it. It's their fault it didn't do well. They sent it out way too early, and then it got a bunch of patches right before it came out that fixed nearly every issue that was in a lot of reviewers' reviews. So yeah, they did Days Gone dirty. It deserves a second chance. The people who wrote it and directed it are gone from Bend, but they directed and wrote so many games for Bend that I'd honestly like to see some new blood kind of take over the franchise. It also ends on a cliffhanger. So like, yeah, I'd like to see more Days Gone. The Mind's Eye game kind of stood out to me. It looked cool. Like, it's a open world style game that focuses on driving. So, you know, I'm in, the shooting looked decent, but man, it was running like garbage. Apparently it's coming out this summer. That looked like it needed a lot of work. They did put a focus on it. They brought out the director and everything like that. But yeah, that one I think needs a little more time in the oven. I'm curious about it though. That was a cool new IP to see. Onimusha looks incredible. I am so excited for that. How gory it was amazing. The Onimusha 2 remaster got a release date. I wish it was a same day drop because that's a remake of a PS2 game, but you know, it's still cool to see it. Borderlands 4 got a September 23rd release date. I've never really sunk my teeth into a Borderlands past the first one. I played the first one on Switch and beat all the DLC, never really messed around with 2 or the pre-sequel. I literally just downloaded Borderlands 3. I feel like I should give it a shot because 4 looks awesome. Again, it's coming out September 23rd. What does that mean for Grand Theft Auto? Because Gearbox is owned by Take-Two now, and they are releasing Mafia in the summer. They're releasing in September Borderlands 4. Where is Grand Theft Auto 6 going to fit in there? I hope it doesn't get delayed, but yeah, I am excited. There is going to be a standalone state of play for Borderlands 4. Much better than Suicide Squad getting one of those, in my opinion. That's a positive from this entire thing. There's Lies of P DLC that looks awesome. Stellar Blade is getting more crossover DLC. I'm sure people are excited about that, but outside of those two, nothing else really stood out, which is crazy because there was like 20 other games. They did have one coming out today that's like a roguelite. I don't know, man. Like, every game outside of the ones I talked about looks so similar to the last, and it's just like quantity over quality. I don't know what the solution is here, but like, the showcases were better. They were just simply better. When we got a showcase either in May or at the end of the year that showed off big first party and third party games that had big budgets and were worth being excited about, this is like stuff you just used to see get uploaded to the PlayStation YouTube channel randomly rapid fire throughout the day back in the day. And now I guess it's relegated to state of plays, but they need to reevaluate what they're doing with these shows because it is not working. So yeah, B-, C+, that's my rating on the show. Let me know what yours was down in the comments below. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.